Welcome to the crypto simulation. Today, I'm going to talk to you about Multibit or Mubi. None of what I say in this video is meant to be taken as financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, so be sure to consult a professional for any advice with investing. Multibit Bridge or Mubi is a BRC20 to ERC20 bridge. And what that means is this has to actually do with Bitcoin Ordinals or inscriptions directly on Bitcoin. And you have people who are putting NFTs and all other kinds of things on Bitcoin. Bitcoin was the first chain to do this. It was actually discovered by accident last year. And recently, Dogecoin has actually done the same thing with Dogecoin Ordinals or Doginals, as they're called. I'll do another video on that another time. But Multibit was the first bridge to take these BRC20 tokens, which you can think of as sort of, this is sort of like DeFi or Bitcoin finance, like kind of like what has gone on Ethereum with DeFi. And so we can bridge BRC20 tokens to ERC20 tokens. And Multibit actually has plans to expand their bridges outward to other chains like Solana as well. This is a very, very amazing project. Now, for the record, I do own Multibit. It is my third biggest holding. So keep that in mind as I kind of navigate through this video. But I got into this project very early on, and I've been there with it from the beginning, and haven't given up on it. So let's get into the charts and see what's going on with Mubi, and yeah, we'll see if it's a good buy or not. Now, Mubi is a brand new project. It's only a few months old, and that makes doing technical analysis on it extraordinarily difficult. I pulled up a 6-hour chart. I felt that was the most appropriate chart to run a log regression rainbow on, or just basic log regression lines, going from -3 to +3 standard deviations and in increments of 0.5 to really get the best idea of what's going on. You can see that we got off to a very choppy start. We didn't have the typical dump and pump, right? It just got off to a pretty choppy start. And I got into the project, I think it was like around here somewhere. Yeah, somewhere in this range in November, mid-November, I think that's where I got into this project. DCA'd a bunch into here. We had the first pump up above the median line, came down to -0.5 a standard deviation, went all the way up to plus 2.5 standard deviations. And I remember this happening, and I actually sold my Mubi in this region. And then we took a trip down. I think I was kind of worried that this was gonna, maybe go higher, and I made a mistake. I bought back in kind of around 29 cents when I probably should have waited, and kind of rode the whole thing down. Lessons learned. So we found some difficulty kind of at the 20-cent level, which is a psychological barrier. We spent quite a bit of time over there, and then we finally had a nice capitulation down to about just around 12.8 cents. Chopped around, very choppy, bouncing off the log regression median line, went up to half a standard deviation, and then we entered into kind of a more major capitulation process that kind of mirrors this one pretty recently. And I kind of watched this happen live tonight, and look at where we're finding support right on the -1.5 log regression line, which is just one log regression line above the previous bottom back in December before Mubi blasted off. So, that is an interesting sign that we've made it this far below the mean from the standard deviation. From the logarithmic regression mean. Could we go down further? I think we're going to have to look at some other indicators to be able to answer that question. I'd like to pull up the Gaussian channel and see what that looks like on the 6-hour, and kind of like maybe do some analysis here. So we had a very bumpy green Gaussian. You're not going to find clean Gaussians on lower time frames. They tend to be very choppy. We are in a red Gaussian, but you're going to notice, at least I notice, an inflection here. And I see that we're looking like we're starting to go concave up. I see some narrowing happening here. So to me, that's already a kind of a bullish sign that we may have in fact found a bottom last night. It could have happened as soon as last night. So what I'd like to do now is pull up some fibs and VRVP and see kind of where we're at in terms of those metrics. But Looks kind of bullish to me, and it's strange to call it bullish when all it's been doing is bleeding for the past month. But what do you expect? I mean, we had this insane parabolic run. I mean, from the bottom, Mubi did like an insane move. Like I don't even know. So like a 29x roughly on the 6 hour. So I mean, what do we really expect at that point? And so how far are we down from the high? Let's take a look. Um, Looks like we're down around 72%, which for a project of this size and market cap, I can't quite remember what the market cap of Mubi is, but I think it's around. It was around. Actually, I'm not even gonna guess. We'll look it up. Um, at one point, it was like around 100 million, I think, but it could have been higher. I don't remember, to be honest. But yeah, a 72% drawdown at this point. Not totally abnormal considering the type of manic bull run it went on. So just to verify, there's your market cap off CoinGecko. It looks like 109 million. So I was pretty close on my guess. What I really like about Mubi is the tokenomics are beautiful. It's got a fully diluted valuation of $115 million. We've got 1 billion tokens total supply, and almost all a billion are released. I mean, that is such tiny inflation. You can't ask for anything better on a project that is this new. I mean, to have nearly all the tokens released, um, that's already an impressive thing, and one of the reasons I enjoy this project from a tokenomics point of view. I don't know how many of you have seen this before, but this is the Wall Street cheat sheet, which shows you the psychology of a market cycle from hope all the way to disbelief. And I don't know about you, but when I look at Mubi's chart, this is more or less what I see that is played out. And I mean, almost to the T, just like a less fat version of it. You've got your hope, optimism, belief, thrill, euphoria, followed by complacency, the dead cat bounce, anxiety, denial, panic, a bit of anger, and maybe right now we're just about to come out of the depression phase. And you might think to yourself, well, there's not a lot of volume support here, and you're right, there isn't. We've cut through it, but there is some here, around 10 cents. And we have to keep in mind that 10 cents is a pretty significant level psychologically, just like 20 cents was. 20 cents was a hard level for us to break down through. And the other thing too is there's some actual support here. Look, we had some resistance at the 0.382 fib. We came down, straddled the zero point 0.5 fib, and then came back up. So I am, Mubi to me is in a long-term uptrend. I am going to go ahead and go out on a limb, and even without looking at other indicators, and say this could very well be the bottom of this downtrend. And you might think, well, it's only a 70%, 70 something percent drop, but this is on a $100 million market cap project, which was valued at, more than that at the top. So we've taken quite a haircut already. And there's a lot of people who are probably waiting in these obvious buy zones, and the market often likes to fool you. And so I had the urge tonight to DCA when I saw this falling, and I ran into the burning building and I DCA'd, fairly small amount of Mubi just so I could at least say I DCA'd it, just in case it doesn't go lower. Now, there's always a possibility it bounces and can't find support and goes lower again, and you can see there's brick wall support all the way from 6 cents up to around 9 cents. It doesn't mean it has to go down there, though. It didn't go down there tonight, but there's still plenty of time left in this market cycle. So I'm also not gonna be running victory laps yet. But I do like this structure. I like to see that we're coming back to some levels that were tested. This is the breakout level, and I like that we're coming back to test it as support. And to me, that is a healthy place to find a local bottom before we head back off to the races. So I think there's a decent possibility that that's the bottom. Before you believe me, let's look at some more indicators and see what they have to say. I put some Heikin-Ashi candles on the chart. Heikin-Ashi candles are a good way to tell what the overall trend momentum is. And you can see that currently in this region, things are about as bad as they can possibly get. We're trending below the 1200 hour, the 600 hour in white, the 300 hour in blue, and the 120 hour in yellow. I mean, all the moving averages are turned down. This is truly as bearish as you're going to get. We're very, very far extended from the 120 hour, and that is suggesting we probably need to return to it. Okay, these things are like magnets. So this has been nothing but a pure downtrend. There's absolutely no strength to the upside in this at all. But we are butting up right against that 382 fib. We do have some structural support at this level, and so we should be paying attention here. I want you to also notice we've fallen out of the Bollinger Bands, which means we've gone more than 2 standard deviations away from the mean. This looks like 4 standard deviations to the downside, which is pretty significant. I want to show you another chart that recently did something like this. Not exactly the same way, but it's worth comparing it to. It's also a newer project called Pith, which is an oracle on Solana, and it was also bleeding like a pig for a while, and then recently it had a really nice bounce, and I've seen some similarities to it. So normally I'd probably do a chart comparison side by side or top to bottom. I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to pull the Pith chart up, and then we'll just come back to this one. So this is Pith USD on the 6 hour, and you can see that Pith also went through this nasty capitulation process, and it tested these lows several times. And notice how it was also turned down underneath all of its moving averages. It got outside of the Bollinger Bands, and that actually marked a local bottom for Pith. And look at what happened afterwards. Pith just started going straight up. I think something like this is actually quite likely with Mubi. And I know it's dangerous for me to say that when we're literally at the bottom right now. We could go lower. But markets always think you can go lower, right? And there's going to be a bunch of people waiting on the sidelines. And those are usually the people who end up getting wrecked. So, this is not financial advice, but in a bottoming process like this, people always say, oh, don't go catch a falling knife, don't go run into a burning building, but I actually do. I think these are great prices. Let me get off Pith and get back onto Mubi, but I think these are great prices to be accumulating at, and if you're going to hold for a long time and wait till Mubi goes on another super crazy mania run, these are not the worst prices to be getting in at. So after you've looked at the Pith chart, you can see the Mubi chart and tell, it looks kind of similar. We've got all the moving averages turned down. Mubi has extended itself pretty far away from the 120, and I'm kind of anticipating a bounce here. This is an indicator I haven't used in any of my previous videos, but it's one I like to use when I'm suspecting we're near a top or near a bottom. It's called the Coin Bureau OBOS indicator, which is not an official Coin Bureau or affiliated with Coin Bureau in any way, which is modeled after, it's an indicator that was modeled after something I think that guy said from Coin Bureau on his channel a while ago. And it tracks certain things like Bollinger Bands, RSI, and it prints buy and sell signals, and you can kind of set the parameters for those. And there's a lot more false sells at the levels that we have it at versus buys. So it's a little harder to time the sells. You can make the sells a lot more strict on this indicator, but I have my buy set, I think, at an RSI level of around 30, and you can see it's just triggered for the first time in this entire downtrend on these last 2 6-hour candles. It also triggered on the 12-hour, unsurprisingly, which is 2 6-hour intervals. That's something I definitely pay attention to. It does not mean that this is the bottom. It doesn't mean that. I have no way of knowing that right now. I suspect that this is the bottom, based on reasons I've said before, that the fib level, the support, the psychological level of 10 cents, and we didn't even make it down to 10 cents. No guarantee that we do. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see us kind of scrape the lows over the next few days, and then kind of head back up. You should also notice that this is a textbook falling wedge, and I'll actually bring that up for you to see. I find structural technical analysis to be absolutely beautiful, and this is an interesting one. We have so many different structures within a much larger structure. Let's study this. So, beginning back on December 16th, which is when the all time high for Mubi printed, we entered into a falling wedge. And a falling wedge is a very common bear market pattern. You see it in all bear markets, just about all of them, where you get this descending triangle where you fall to the bottom of a range, and then you bounce, and then you fall again, and then you bounce until you exit the range. Falling wedges are bullish. They're bullish. They end usually in a nice bounce. So the all charts pattern said that we were in a falling wedge, then we got into a little bit of a rectangle, so this is like a little bit of sideways chop, and then we got into a rising wedge. This was just a few days ago, and that rising wedge, rising wedges tend to be bearish, and we have broken out to the downside of that rising wedge. Now the downside target was calculated to be right around 10 cents. So we haven't hit the downside target for that. Now the breakout target from this falling wedge, when we finally break out of it, which I don't know if we have. I mean, maybe we need to take another ride up here to around 15 or 16 cents and then come down again and test 10 cents. I don't know how that's going to play out. But when we do break out of this, the expectation is it's going to be pretty darn bullish, and we're actually getting an upside target reading, and I wouldn't take this to the bank at all, of like 41 cents. So that's pretty significant. That's showing that there's a lot of buyers that have been waiting. And I think that would be kind of something important to look at, is like, what is the buy and sell volume looking like on the 6 hour? Let's go take a look. So I've pulled up static volume, and I've also pulled up Wyckoff volume momentum. You can see the static volume up here has really been trailing off all the way up through today, and I've still got the Heikin-Ashi candles turned on. I like the Heikin-Ashi candles when we're near a bottom, or I feel like we're near a top. This I don't know if I've shown you this indicator before, but just to explain it if I haven't, this is the Wyckoff volume momentum indicator, and it prints 4 different colors depending on what's going on. So very strong buy momentum is going to be, or actually any buy momentum, when buy momentum overwhelms sell momentum on a given day, you're going to see these blue bars. The orange or the yellow bars are for when sell volume outnumbers buy volume on a given day. The red bars, or orange depending on how you see it, this is very strong selling for that time period. This is like a brick wall of selling. The green bars are like a brick wall of buying. So you can kind of see, and this is the trend line. So you can see that overall volume momentum has really been slowing down. We're seeing declining volume. You can see it statically, or you can see it dynamically. If we pull up a higher time frame, maybe go to the daily, you can see it's a little, there's just not enough data really. Maybe we should go to the 12 hour, or maybe let's see the 18 hour, if we can get kind of a read of the data. And wow, look at how that's been just trailing off. Again, the 18 hour is not a great thing to be looking at when we have to just, this is a small cap, right? So there's just not a lot of data, but I think the trend is pretty much the same regardless of the time frame, which is the mania is over, and we're now in the bear market, and just trying to find a bottom. And I feel like we're in a bottoming range. This is good enough for me to feel confident about DCAing, although to be honest with you, I've been DCAing ever since like around 20 cents, because I plan on holding this all cycle. This is a cycle hold, and I'm really not one to try to time bottoms. I think that's something I might want to refine over time. I might get better buys for it, but it is what it is. The bull bear power trend looks terrible, but we are higher than we were on January 29th, believe it or not. We didn't come down as far here. You can see from these red histogram bars that the bears, they're firmly in control right now. There's not a lot of buyers compared to sellers, but this does appear to be kind of getting, what happened last time we got this low as we started to trend back up, but that was under stronger bearish momentum. This is weaker. and I feel like there's a good chance we start to curve back around in the coming days and maybe find some kind of equilibrium, at least temporarily. I'm not saying we're going to wake up tomorrow and we're going to be at 42 cents. That is extremely unlikely. But I think we could find some respite. Maybe crabbing would be good. Honestly, anything's better than going straight down. But this to me is actually an encouraging sign to see where we're at on the bull bear power trend on the 6 hour. On a 6 hour time frame, we are also pretty oversold. This is the MFI oscillator volume profile. We could go lower. That's definitely a possibility. Like looking back, you can see that in the beginning of this bear market, we hit oversold many times. It didn't mean a thing. We just went lower and lower and lower. But what I did notice is that the threshold value for oversold did come up a little higher recently, and we haven't seen that happen. So, I mean, it did happen here briefly, but we haven't seen it happen for this long of a period since January 30th, which was a few days ago. So, to me, that's an encouraging sign that we are very near a bottom, if not at a bottom. This is the Mansfield Relative Strength Index, and this is probably one of the most important indexes that you could possibly have on your chart, because it allows you to compare the strength of an asset relative to Bitcoin, or to any other asset, but I use it for Bitcoin. And you can see that we've been underperforming Bitcoin really for the latter half of January, but we've been holding these range lows that we've been making here. So I could actually, maybe if I squeeze this together, you can see that Mubi actually looks like a relatively strong performer against Bitcoin in the grand scheme of things. So like if I were to let me find which one is the low. I think this is the low right here on January 8th. And you can see we've just been kind of, holding those lows against Bitcoin. So that is something I like to see in a downtrend like this. We're holding relative strength against Bitcoin. Bitcoin, of course, is outperforming us. That's a given, but this is not the worst chart. I've seen much worse charts than this against Bitcoin. This is Mubi's correlation against Bitcoin. And you can see that during Mubi's mania phase, that was also a very positive time for Bitcoin, and Mubi was very positively correlated with Bitcoin, where Bitcoin was going up and Mubi was also going up. Recently, though, from around the 10th of January till roughly the 23rd of January, there was actually a negative correlation. Bitcoin was going up, or actually, let's see here. I'd have to pull Bitcoin's price chart up before I make an assumption about that. Hold on, let me just do that. This is probably a better way to visualize. The correlation stuff's fun, but why don't we just look at Mubi Bitcoin? The reason why I pulled the correlation chart up is I did a video on the dollar last night, so my head was still kind of stuck in that world. It's much easier just to compare ratios. So Mubi Bitcoin, it doesn't look all that bad. I showed you this on the Mansfield RSI, but see it for yourself. It really doesn't look that bad, considering how high Mubi shot up. And it's got to have time to cool off. Absolutely needs that time. It needs price-based capitulation and also needs time-based capitulation. Which one we're in right now, I have no clue. But if I had to guess, I'd say the time-based capitulation, where the focus is more just on kind of crabbing our way out of this bear market that we're in, and in this case against Bitcoin, and hopefully finding some strength at some point and outperforming Bitcoin again. And there's a very high chance of that happening. I mean, look at how much we outperformed Bitcoin in our initial capitalization, and a nice little leg here. And I think we're going to get another one now. I just don't know if that'll be the leg or if we have to do some more crabbing around first. This is a chart that I really love to use during topping and bottoming processes. It's called the beam. And this is like a DCA risk metric. And the way the beam works is you can set the time frame that you want to kind of figure out how undervalued or overvalued an asset is. And then it sets parameters for you, and you can adjust these as needed. So this is the 0.2 risk level. Anything between 0 and 0.2 is considered to be a safe DCA. Anything between 0.2 and 0.4 is considered hold. Like, don't, you can DCA here if you want, but basically, it's a neutral zone. Zone. Point 0.4 to point 0.5 is absolutely neutral, heating up. Point 0.5 to around, I think 0.65 is what I set it at. This is where it's starting to get kind of hot, and anything above that is in the sell zone. And you can see that this is how I knew to sell the top on Mubi, is with this indicator. And it even shades it in for you. When it gets down here, this is undervalued. Okay, so when you're below zero, it's calling Mubi undervalued. And if we draw a horizontal line, on this one too, it's hard for me to tell exactly where that bottom is. Yeah, we haven't quite reached the bottom that we hit on November 21st, but we sure are getting close. So to me, Mubi is pretty significantly undervalued with context to its history. And I mean, could it get more undervalued? It absolutely could. Do I think it will? I don't really think so. This bear market has been going on for since December. It's been going on for like over a month. The bull market for Mubi was, I think, like about a month long. So we have a bear market that's matching the length of the bull market, and that to me should be pretty sufficient time for us to have cooled off. So I'm liking what I'm seeing on the beam. This is a great DCA region. Not financial advice, but I would be DCAing here, picking up some Mubi at these levels, because who knows how long you're going to get a chance to have it at these levels. Now, of course, a lot depends on what Bitcoin does. Right? Bitcoin kicks the bucket tomorrow, so does Mubi. So you do have to keep that in mind, but we don't want to try to be clairvoyant and predict what's going to happen. When we see good value, I usually go after it. Of course, you could argue, why not just DCA into Bitcoin at this point? Well, because Bitcoin's in a spot where it's already run up so much, and it's in kind of a no man's land. So, I think it's good to hold some altcoins as a hedge against Bitcoin, just in case the unexpected plays out. And this just looks like a really good value region to me. I'm extremely bullish on Mubi and Ordinals in general. I don't hold any Ordinals tokens. I kind of was late to the party on that one. I've considered picking up a position in Ordinals, but I felt like, I just want to have some kind of exposure to the Ordinals ecosystem. So it was enough for me to hold Multibit. Multibit is the bridge. There's other projects that are out there claiming to be like Mubi. You've got a good thing when it has plenty of copycats. Just, in my opinion, stick to the original. Stick to the first movers. Stick to the first movers, like, so hard to say, like Ordinals and Mubi. I wouldn't really branch out too much from there. You may see the BFI ecosystem grow over time, and I'm not saying Mubi and Ordi are going to be it. I'm sure there'll be other ones. But this is really good value. This is a great project. And you can even see down here supported networks. You've got Bitcoin, you've got Ethereum, Polygon. I don't know what those other two symbols are. But yeah, what a great project, and an important project in the ecosystem. So I hope you enjoyed tonight's video, and please give this video a like, thumbs up on it, comments, share the video, spread the word about crypto simulation theory, and make sure to hit that notification bell so you can be notified of future videos. And I really appreciate your support. Follow me on Twitter at the Gaussian Snake, and you can actually see a link to that in my YouTube channel. I've been posting on Twitter as well, or X as it's called. So really looking forward to growing this channel and providing you with content that gives you deep value with deep analysis, and looking really only at data and tuning out the rest of the noise in the crypto simulation. So that's it for now. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.